specifically to do all the HVAC units at the annex. And at the annex, there is the governor's school, special ed, and what else did you say?
There's federal programs. All the administrative offices are in there upstairs. We have our personnel, finance, all that is upstairs. Director of instruction. And then downstairs in the other area would be the art room where the art students come from Bowling Green Elementary. Also, they have a room in there that they have some part of their PE classes, and the PE offices are all in there. We still do use the gym over there for the gym for Bowling Green Elementary School.
Okay, I just want to make sure we all understood everything that was in there, because somebody that may not be in this particular room may say we're spending $300,000 to fix the air conditioning units at a place where we just have school board offices. So
there are two different groups of students. Both the Bowling Green Elementary students are served there, and the governor's school students are served there.
I just wanted to make sure we all said that. Thank you, gentlemen. That was my discussion.
And I want to go back to the original motion. Mr. Wright, I'm not sure where you came up with your number. As I add these two numbers together, the 105 and the 300, that's 405. Is that correct? Because you're showing us 300,000 for the heating and air conditioning, and you're showing 105,000 for the door replacements. You're showing us your savings 104,172. So if you subtract those numbers, it's 104,828. In fact, it's 301,827.05.
You're correct, Mr. Akers. I forgot to subtract the savings by going with the $300,000 program. You are exactly correct. I was going with the figure because we have actually a math error on that sheet.
Mm-hmm.
The additional needed was only $3,827.05. So, but with the savings of the $300,000, it knocks the cost of the units down by like $4,000 each. So, you're absolutely correct, and
Okay,
I stand corrected.
My motion will stand as originally presented, Mr. Chairman. 301.
I'll amend my second.
Upwards?
That's fine, Mr. Chairman.
All right. And can you state your number again, Mr. Akers?
301,828.
That's right.
Okay, motion made and properly amended and seconded that we appropriate 301,828 for project and improvements for the school. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. All right.
All right, we also
Okay, I have an additional, at our chairman's meeting, you asked for our previous school budgets, and I have copies of the past 4 years, and I'd like to give them to you. I only have one copy, and also have additional CIPs that we presented.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Wright. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. I'm sure Mr. Driver will be proud of you.
Okay, next we have the appointments of the BZA, Port Royal, and Planning Commission, Bowling Green. Board members ready to report?
I'd like to recommend Mr. Art Terry for the BZA.
second.
Motion made and properly seconded to approve Art Terry for the BZA. Recommend. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Planning Commission, Bowling Green District, Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have that come up in the October meeting. I guess my current member expires at the end of October.
Okay,
Thank you.
well enough. We have item 6, consent agenda items. Board members, I'd like to proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to discuss item D, if we could pull that.
Okay, any other items? Okay, motion would be in order to approve the other items,
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
A through C. Motion made to approve items A through C and F. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Chairman, a few months ago, we talked about Dawn wastewater, and I thought we had tabled, we were going to close out phase 1 and wait and see how things went. So I guess I didn't know how phase 2 fit into that whole equation, so I guess that's my question.
Okay, certainly, Mr. Parton has been integral part in that, as well as Mr. Borchak, but I'll first start off with, as you all know, the board's aware that we did receive a STAG grant, and so we have about $300,000 cash in that STAG grant. And along with this particular grant, if we win this grant, it would be just more money to allow us to extend simply the pipe. You know, it will allow us to take one area. It would give us more of a revenue that may let us do another 20 connections, and basically no new local dollars. And it just adds to that STAG grant money that we have, and will let us go further with the existing system that we already have. Now, have I portrayed that accurately, gentlemen? Our Utilities Director and Mr. Parton have been part of that team. Okay, Mr. Seeley?
That's why I was just curious, because we said we were closing. I didn't know what closing out meant of phase one and then the additional.
Right.
How long can those dollars actually sit there, Mr. Parton? Do you know?
I believe the STAG grant money is available for another 3 years, if I'm correct. This is an opportunity that just was recently announced from the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation for water quality improvement funds, and gives us the opportunity to apply for up to $250,000 that can be packaged with the STAG grant money, meet both local match requirements with no additional county money. So we felt it was a good opportunity to apply for that grant.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve D.
Second.
All right, motion made and properly seconded, we approve item D. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say. All right, motion carried. In the chair, we'll take a 15-minute break.
Thank you, sir.
Everyone's ready? We'll now reconvene the Board of Supervisors meeting, and welcome to everyone who's come in since the beginning of the meeting. And at this time, we will open the floor for those citizens who have public comment. And if you do want to speak, please come forward, state your name, your voting district, and also there's a 3-minute time limit unless you're speaking for a group. It'll be a 5-minute. State your name and voting district, please, sir.
You don't know who I am, do you, Maxie?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh.
Mr. Pleasure, good to see you again.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, Jack Pleasure, Bowling Green District. I just want to talk about a performance bond. In the future, developers are going to be coming to you to develop in the county. They're going to offer you a profit. But if the situation develops that these people do not go ahead and build, there will be no profit. So I'm suggesting to you that you require a performance bond be given to the county in whatever amount of money and time frame is necessary. If the developer does not produce, you people will get the bond, it'll come due, you'll receive the money, and you can go ahead and build whatever it is. For example, the YMCA, which was profit, I understand, 5 years ago. If you had had a performance, I don't know who's on the board then, but if you had had a performance bond, the money would have come to Caroline County, you would build your YMCA and taking the kids off the street. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pleasure. Any other citizens who'd like to address the board, please come forward, state your name and your voting district. Oh. All right. Okay, you guys are representing a group, so you have 5 minutes. Is that the way?
Yeah, we're going to represent, Caroline
Okay.
Pines.
I'm going to finish up, Jamie.
Okay. Can I submit these two?
Absolutely. pass them on up.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lucianen. I'm from the Reedy Church District, and I'm the president of the board of Caroline Pines Property Owners Association. I'm here not only as a board member, but I'm here as a citizen who lives in Caroline Pines and pays taxes. I'd like to ask the Board of Supervisors to please vote yes on Caroline Pines Water Project when they vote on October 12th. Water is a need, not a secondary luxury. The people of Caroline Pines understand there is a $2,800 connection fee, which will be about $40 to $45 a month. If we keep our water system, it will cost them $10,000 per household, which with the usage fee would be $160 a month that they would have to pay for 5 years, on top of mortgaging all the property that we have in Caroline Pines to get the project started. Please do not burden the people of Caroline Pines, taxpayers of Caroline County, on trying to pay for the need that we would not be able to afford when there's a financial sound solution we could use, the county taking over the water system. If the county takes over the water system, it will cost $2.15 million. The initial connection charges will pay for more than 50%, and the rest will be made up from usage fees, new connection fees from homes and businesses. This is a win-win situation for the county and the homeowners association. We'd be broadening the county's water system and adding more users to the system. This allows the county to possibly connect with Hanover's water system to have a more globally connected water system. We also would be creating fire suppression to Caroline Pines, which we do not have at this present point, even with the hydrants that we have. There are people in the county that say that the county's water is not worth it. Well, look at the pictures I've submitted. Look at the water that we have in front of us. This water is not from just one house. This water is from multiple houses all across Caroline Pines. And we have everything from black water to brown water to green water that's growing something in there to, I have no idea what's growing in here. This filter is 7 days old. 7 days old. And this is what it looks like after 7 days. I think that the county water would be the best solution for the people in there. It would give us water pressure, and it would definitely be a lot better option than what we're drinking here. I ask you on October 12th that you vote yes for Caroline Pines water system. This is a need, not a want. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lucian and the folks from Caroline Pines. We appreciate you coming. All right. Spend a little time with that? 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Edith Holland. I live in the Pines. I've been here 10 years, and I have seen the miserable well water and things like that that we've had. Put up with it a lot. And it stains everything. It's either one color or another, apparently. But it does. It stains clothes and all that sort of thing. We would like to have something we can drink that's clear. And I just want to remind you that water is one of the necessities of life. So you know, it's one of the top 2 things to stay alive. So I want you all to consider that, and I'd like to, should I ask about having a bond? Should I? No questions. Oh, well, anyway, I'd like to see it however you put it out. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Did you have something?
Hello, I'm Pam Pierce from Caroline Pines, Reedy Church District. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the entire Board of Supervisors for listening to us each and every time we've come to one of these meetings to speak as taxpayers and citizens of Caroline County. I appreciate you've heard the stories, you've seen the complaints, and if there is still any question as to the citizens of Caroline County or Caroline Pines needing the county's help with our water issue, I would like to humbly offer for supervisors a taste of our water.
And I think we humbly decline. Okay, time's up.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, thank you folks for coming, and we appreciate you. Are there any citizens who'd like to address the board?
Can you hear one more, or you don't have time?
Are you in Caroline Pines?
Yeah.
I gave you a pass on your chance.
But it's also other thing, I mean, it's not just that.
Okay, that'll be fine.
My name is Evelyn Lesh, and I do live in Caroline Pines, and I spoke to you a few weeks ago, and I am also a real estate agent, as I told you before, and my water is disgusting, which I went through before. The day before school started, I went to wash clothes for my twins to go back to school. It was nothing but mud coming out of my washer. I have to buy water every week, plus pay a water bill. But my other thing with this whole thing with this water is one of you wrote an article in the Caroline Progress stating that they were more interested in doing something with the schools, and that the water at the end of Carmel Church had low water pressure and there were other problems with that water. Well, as a real estate agent, last weekend, Lake Landor asked real estate agents to come to one of their board meetings. And the reason they did that was to try to sell the foreclosure homes. What could they do to get those homes sold? And also, this is going to affect your tax base, which you know, because there's an article this week in the Caroline Progress about that, about the values of the homes going down. And some of the reasons I get clients that do not want to live in Lake Landor because of their water problems, which is probably something that you, in the long run, you are going to have to solve too. Their water bills and sewage bills are just out of this world. I have clients come to me and say, I don't want to live in Lake Landor. Now, Campbell's Creek is having the problem with their outrageous water bills, and they're coming and saying we do not want to buy there either. So it's not just Caroline Pines with the water problem. And in the long run, something needs to be done, a long-range plan or something. And something else, it was the Board of Supervisors that bought all those truck stops to Carmel Church. And that was a mistake too, because of all the traffic problems. I went down that road several times, and I bet once a day one of those trucks was going to hit me because of the way they came out of Pilot. They didn't stop. The police department didn't have anybody stationed up there. They could have made a mint in tickets for those people. Okay, I'll be done in a minute. With those tickets, you know, they could have made a mint off of that, but they didn't do that either. And there's things I could say about the school that you're going to cut me off, but I mean, that water system is more than just Caroline Pines. It's going to be all over the county.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Lesh.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Any other citizens who'd like to address the board? Any other citizens who'd like to address the board at this time? Any other citizens who'd like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Next, we have public hearing, proposed amendment to section 68-10 and 68-12 of the Caroline Chapter 68 of the Caroline County noise regulation. Mr. Parton, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tonight's public hearing concerns two proposed changes to the county's noise ordinance, both of which are simply mirroring changes in the state code. We have to make these changes to continue to enforce our ordinance. The two changes are reducing the penalties for a violation of the noise ordinance to not more than $250 for the first offense and not more than $500 for the second offense, and also to add exemptions on industrial property, railroads, and areas permitted by the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy. Again, both of these changes simply mirror the state code and have to be made to make our ordinance enforceable.
What you need is for us to approve it, public hearing?
No, this is the public hearing. Simply need to get a motion to approve the amendments as proposed.
Okay. So we'll conduct the public hearing tonight, and we can't adopt it tonight?
That's correct.
And it's primarily just cleaning up the language to align with the state law?
Reflecting changes to the state law, yes, sir.
Okay. Questions of Mr. Parton? Okay, if that being said, you ready to open the public hearing?
Yes, sir.
All right, we now open the public hearing for Section 6810 and Section 6812, Chapter 68 of Code of Caroline County, regulating noise. Any citizens like to address the board on this public hearing? Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this public hearing? Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this public hearing? Seeing none, we declare the public hearing closed. Mr. Parton says appropriate take action. Motion's in order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve amendment of sections 68-10 and 68-12 of Chapter 68 of the Code of Caroline County regulating noise.
Second.
Motion made and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Parton. Good job. All right, next we have text amendment 0709 and text amendment 07-2010. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your first public hearing on the zoning amendments is TXT 07-2009. This proposed amendment to the ordinance would amend the conditional zoning regulations of the zoning ordinance to allow the board to accept a proffer once the public hearing has begun. This language was added to the state code about a year ago. It was designed to give the board more flexibility in how it handles conditional zoning cases. We've had a number of instances where the board during the public hearing has discussed changes or modifications to the proffers, and we've had to look to council to determine whether those were modifications or clarifications or substantial enough changes to require another public hearing. This would allow the board to deal with those issues, the modifications, the technical changes, without having to constantly look to the county attorney to deem whether that was substantial enough to require another public hearing. The board has discussed this item on several occasions, and with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, board members have questions of Mr. Fincham? Hopwood?
I have none.
Mr. Akers?
No, sir.
Mr. Seeley?
No, sir, not this time.
Ms. Thomas? And I have none as well. As we proceed with the public hearing, can I do one at a time or do them together? One at a time?
One time.
Okay, first we'll have the public hearing for text amendment 2007, ordinance of zoning to amend the ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article X1X Amendment, Section 7, establishment of conditions and time zone maps amendments. We'll now declare the public hearing open. Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this text amendment? Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this text amendment? Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this text amendment? Okay, hearing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Have board members like to proceed with the,
I make a motion that we accept the text amendment as read by the county staff, presented by county staff.
Second.
I have a motion made and probably second. We have discussion.
One question for discussion.
Okay, Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Finchman, all the times that we've done public hearings for changing any sort of zoning, I guess the one that comes to mind right now is at the last public hearing we had, we actually pulled a parcel of land off to actually add a fire station site, which will have to go back through and be re-advertised and go through the public hearing. Would this have prevented us from having to go back to public hearing for the fire station?
Mr. Seeley, I'm not sure that this amendment would have solved that problem. One of the standards that's set forth in the state code is that the amendment must not materially affect the application. I think that's a vague standard that the General Assembly wrote into the legislation, which still is subject to determination as to what constitutes, materially changes. I think in a case like that, we would still need to look to the county attorney for some guidance as to whether that additional proffer would, or a similar proffer would cross that threshold or not. So I'm not sure it's going to solve all of the potential issues out there, but I think it clearly helps address many of the textual changes that may be discussed regarding language or, adding a clarification or something like that. So I feel comfortable would address probably 90% of the issues that we deal with.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fincham. Okay, Mr. Fincham, did the planning commission approve both of these, cities will forward with a favorable,
Yes, they forward this amendment with a recommendation for approval.
Okay. All right, motion's been made and probably second to accept text amendment 07-2009. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same. All right, motion carries. Next, we will have the public hearing for text amendment 07-2010.
Mr.
Now,
Chair.
declare the public hearing open for text amendment 2010. You good? Okay. You can go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this text amendment was specifically referred by the board back to the Planning Commission with the request that they act on this text amendment and refer it back to the board tonight to allow you to hold a public hearing. This is a proposed sign amendment that would have limited application within the Highway Corridor Overlay District to existing zone parcels of land and would allow some flexibility to replace existing freestanding signs in that district. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this and did recommend approval unanimously to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fincham. And we'll go ahead and hold a public hearing. If there's questions, you have a chance for questions. Okay, are there citizens who would like to address the board on this public hearing? Are there citizens who would like to address the board on text amendment 07-2010? Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on text amendment 2010? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Board members have questions of staff?
Mr. Chairman, I do have questions. Point of clarification on A. I'm reading this two different ways, and I just need to kind of get this clarified. A freestanding sign in excess of 8 feet in height shall exist at the time of this amendment, which shall be removed. Are we saying that any existing sign, pre-existing sign, the owner will have to take that down and put a new sign up?
Yes, sir. You can replace the existing freestanding sign that's greater than